I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now.
Bill Maher didn't just take a shot at Gavin Newsom. He dropped the match and watched the whole thing catch fire.
Well, you can't call it a drought if it happens all the time. In a story I'm getting tired of reporting, California is running out of water, and this time, just when we started showering again. 19,000 acres of forest have already burned this year, and 72% of the entire West is in severe drought. Turns out hot girl summer is for reals.
With California facing growing criticism over heavy regulations and disconnected leadership, Bill Maher didn't stay quiet. He went directly after Gavin Newsom, calling out policies and decisions he believes are hurting the state. Piece by piece, he broke down everything that's been frustrating voters. This is one conversation you'll want to hear all the way through. If you enjoy direct opinions and honest discussion, subscribe and let's get into it.
The median time to get approval to build a house there is 627 days. That's 217 days longer than it took to build the Empire State Building. You need 87 permits, 15 from the Planning Commission, 26 from the Public Utilities Commission and the Fire Department, 19 from building inspectors, 17 from the Public Works, 10 related to public spaces, and 1 from a guy in a T-shirt that says Federal Inspector. It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect.
Imagine trying to build a house in California today. Before you even lay the foundation, you're buried in permits, approvals, and endless paperwork. Bill Maher says the process now takes nearly 3 times longer than it did to build some of New York City's most famous landmarks decades ago. And the results speak for themselves. A year after the deadly Los Angeles wildfires, only a small number of homes have actually been rebuilt. Many families who lost everything are still living in temporary housing, scattered across California, other states, and even other countries. You'd expect a state collecting some of the highest income taxes in America to respond faster and help people get back on their feet. Instead, critics say California keeps making the process slower, harder, and more frustrating.
California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail. We have the highest marginal tax rate in America, higher than almost all other states, and soon Greenland. Now, is wokeness the main reason for the fires? Of course not. But it's also not wrong to associate some of the unforced errors our government made with the things normies see as hallmarks of uber-progressive politics: questionable budget priorities, high taxes that get you nothing, making everything about identity politics, virtue signaling overseas instead of tending to the nuts and bolts at home.
This, critics argue, is what happens when politics becomes more about ideology than real-world results. To them, California has become the perfect example of that problem. They say, when leaders focus too heavily on political messaging and expanding government influence into every part of daily life, basic issues start getting ignored. Take water management, for example. People in California have been warning about droughts and shrinking water supplies for years. Most voters expect leaders to treat that like an urgent issue. But critics of Gavin Newsom argue the problem keeps getting pushed aside while attention shifts to other political priorities.
We have spent the last 2 decades in perpetual drought here, yet almond farmers in California have doubled in that time, despite the fact that almond production alone uses more water than all the humans and businesses in San Francisco and Los Angeles combined, even on days when your teenage son spends 2 hours showering. Look at this chart of how much water it takes to grow different crops. Oranges, tomatoes, strawberries all take about 11 gallons to make 1 pound. Almonds, 1,900 gallons. That wasn't a problem back when it rained, but now there simply isn't enough water to go around, and we have to make a painful choice, getting it to the people or getting it in the nuts.
And critics say, that's exactly the problem. California doesn't have room for mistakes anymore, especially with wildfires getting worse year after year. The stakes are simply too high. What frustrates many residents is hearing Gavin Newsom ask everyday people to use less water, while much larger industries continue consuming enormous amounts with far less attention. Almond farming alone uses a massive share of the state's water supply. And major corporations also consume huge resources every year. So for a lot of people, it feels like regular families are being told to make sacrifices while the biggest players avoid the same level of criticism or accountability.
It's not like California doesn't know how to regulate. They know. We are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again. California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica, or starting a business, or getting your solar power hooked up.
It's no surprise so many people feel the system is unfair. From their perspective, they have plenty of reasons to think that way. When huge corporations seem to move through the system with ease, while regular families struggle just to get approval to rebuild their homes, the imbalance becomes hard to ignore. And according to critics, these problems didn't suddenly appear overnight. They've been building for years.
But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regulations, but somehow that slipped through the cracks?
Take California's high-speed rail project connecting San Francisco and Los Angeles. Since 2008, billions of dollars have already been spent, yet the project is still far behind schedule, and the total cost keeps climbing higher and higher. Bill Maher mocked the situation with a sharp comparison, joking about what it would look like trying to build something like Mount Rushmore under today's California regulations and bureaucracy. And when he made the point, he definitely didn't soften the blow.
But just as an exercise in realizing how far we've regressed as the can-do people, I think we should all try to imagine how it will go down if we tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore out of a mountain today. First, we'd have to make the mountain handicap accessible, so we could hire handicapped people to work on the side of a mountain. Then there'd be a 10-year delay while we studied the effect of construction noise on the mating habits of woodchucks. Then another 10 years to obtain ethnically sourced dynamite and find a sculptor who doesn't only work from home. And then another 2 years to apologize for being on Indian land. And finally, after 50 years and a cost that had ballooned to $100 billion, we'd have half a nostril, and it wouldn't be Lincoln, it'd be Che Guevara.
It may sound exaggerated, but that's really the point being made. When regulations are more about appearances than actual results, people end up stuck dealing with endless obstacles that make everyday life harder. At some stage, rules stop helping and start becoming barriers. Critics argue that laws are supposed to protect people and keep things running smoothly, not bury everyone in frustration and delays. They believe the answer is simpler than politicians make it seem. Put leaders in charge who understand that government should work for the public, not against it. That means cutting unnecessary bureaucracy, creating policies that actually make sense, and focusing on real-world results instead of political optics. The idea is simple. When government becomes more effective, public trust starts to come back. Without that, many people feel the same problems will just keep repeating. Let us know what you think in the comments.